be up here. You weren't brave first, so thank you. Is there anybody here for my second hour philosophy class tonight? I brought the strobe light. The speech starts to tank. They told me to just start singing Lady Gaga and use the strobe light. Mike Morales got a smoke machine. We saw it in an episode of Glee, so it's in all seriousness, I speak tonight with esteem and humility. To the class of 2010, I thank you for the honor of speaking on behalf of the faculty. To the administration, I offer applause. You foster an environment where teachers enjoy support and students know security. To the parents, I celebrate your patience, perseverance, and partnership. This is your week as well, so savor it. Finally, to the younger brothers and sisters apathetically pecking away at your Game Boy DS, I want to tell you about one of the first times school made me uncomfortable. One day when I was 6, I came home upset. When my mother discovered me sitting in my closet with a bucket on my head, she asked what was wrong. It seemed like an unusual bucket. I told her about an assignment at school. We were supposed to draw what we wanted to be when we grew up. I don't know what to draw, I told her. It seemed like all the good jobs were already taken. Kevin was going to be an astronaut, and Sachi was going to be a Sasquatch, and Emily was going to dance the reggae. Don't worry, Mother told me. You've got plenty of time. She neglected, of course, to explain to me exactly how much time I had left, or how I would know when I was, in fact, grown up. So I resolved myself at that point to observe the behavior of grown-ups, so that I would know when I was one. One should be prepared for this, of course. If the other 6-year-olds at the table are talking about complex derivatives and credit default swaps, you don't want to be the only one discussing who you would shoot if the red shells in Mario Kart were real. So I watched grown-ups. I learned that grown-ups don't paint. I learned that they have boogers, but dispose of them in discreet and boring ways. They look ridiculous on bikes and are never excited to receive mail. Adults seemed happiest to me after I went to bed. When I would sit in the darkness, listening to laughter in other rooms. Now, if at this moment you are worried that this anecdote is supposed to welcome you to the fellowship of adulthood, let me put you at ease. I've gotten to know many of you over the past 4 years and debated with you matters of spirit, flesh, and intellect. And yet, the subject you are most passionate about is Free Pie Wednesdays. You are not yet grown up. But certainly something here is about to happen, right? Your senior's X. The largest, most diverse, most talented class yet produced by Neuqua. There's no points on the horizon you can't reach, no mountain you won't subdue, no challenge that will not genuflect to the vigor of your industry and the radiance of your dreams. I thought that too when I graduated. Sure enough, my first job out of high school was incredibly important. For 2 weeks, the Walmart in Greencastle paid me $60 a day to dress up as Larry the Cucumber. Sell VeggieTales DVDs. However, what at first handshake seemed to be a land of dreams quickly became a sun-baked Midwestern hellscape. The costume had no armholes and no peripheral vision, and all the ventilation of a vacuum-sealed cigar tube. Worse, a gang of 12-year-olds spent each shift hunting me for sport, gang tackling me and kicking me in my big foam head. I spent 6 hours a day getting curb stomped by the cast of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Walmart. My next grown-up job was as a manual laborer. I found work at an oil refinery digging holes in areas where it was too explosive to use a backhoe. This was, of course, before I had the muscular physique you see before you today. Back then, I had arms like Bert from Sesame Street. When there weren't incredibly dangerous holes to be dug, they would hand me a sack. The refinery was plagued by pigeons, who had a habit of clogging the machinery. So the workers would leave out birdseed mixed with antacid tablets. On those days, they would tell me I couldn't come in for lunch until I brought them a sack full of pigeons. Once again, I was like Bert, if Sesame Street was written by Quentin Tarantino. After a few months of this, I began to suspect that the unifying element of adulthood is a constant sense of discomfort. Now, on the surface, this doesn't clarify much. After all, what is high school but a perpetual state of uneasiness, like trying to build a life on a stair climber? And certainly the years before high school are no less turbulent, what with the tide pool of hormones and the sphinx-like behavior of the opposite sex. In these times, we could at least console ourselves with bedtime stories of happiness and fulfillment once we survived childhood. We would no longer be in the darkness. We would be where the laughter was. So the truly awful suspicion is that adulthood never comes, or that when it does, it is no paradise of certainty, but the settling of an unending dusk, a gap between morning and twilight, where there is never enough light to see things clearly. And once you suspect this unsettling notion, others take root. That our parents didn't know what they were doing, that our leaders are ad-libbing our future, that we are not so great and intelligent, or even significant in a constellation of 7.6 billion twinkling lights. That even if God is watching and is personally invested in this great, big, spontaneous activity, He is not following rules I can understand, or speaking in a voice that will fit my tiny ears. That it does not matter if I excel, or fail, or even show up in the morning, but there will always be someone else to put on the cucumber costume. I'm sure at some point you've circled these ideas, if not outright grappled with them. This is called discomfort, and most of us spend our waking hours trying to avoid it. We text rather than converse, meet on Facebook rather than face-to-face, and play out the same robotic conversations about weekends and other niceties, which is the absolute voice of death. If you judge a culture based on its art, then consider not just what we put on television, but what we don't. Long, boring car trips, stuttering conversations about weather, hour upon hour of unloading the dishwasher, loading the dishwasher, only to load it again with the same stupid silverware for the next 20 years. We will watch YouTube and Jersey Shore and the Dudesons because the thing we fear most is being reminded of adulthood, of the numbing tedium of discomfort. Now, confronted by discomfort, most adults retreat to our closet and put on our bucket. There's one in just about any shape or color you could want. Maybe your bucket is Fox News or MSNBC. Maybe it's an anonymous name you use in a chat room to post your views. Perhaps your bucket looks like Jon Stewart, or sounds like ironic detachment. The thing about buckets, of course, is that they are rigid and watertight. Nothing gets in or out of a bucket, and everything within it tends to take on the bucket's shape. Now, I'm making adulthood sound depressing and empty, which it is not. My greatest joys have come as an adult, and I am confident the same shall be true for you. What I mean for you to understand is that when those moments of joy or satisfaction or even enlightenment arrive, they are usually preceded by a session where one comes to terms in some way with being grown up and uncomfortable. Let me tell you about the second to last job I ever had, which was really supposed to be the last. It was the end of college, and I had dutifully attended to all the prerequisites of adulthood. I had a written education to the end of the rail, collected distinctions and recommendations, as well as a shiny degree. I found myself a job at a Neo Post House doing advertising work in Chicago. This was my birthright, complete with an apartment and a business card and an arsenal of ties with Banana Republic. Exactly the life expected of me. And yet I felt like a dog who spends his life chasing the mail truck, only to catch it and find that it was cold and metal and indigestible. I wore my time at the office like an ill-fitting suit. People noticed. One evening, my boss called me in and had me sit down. He asked me if I was satisfied with the job I was doing, if I felt like I was fitting in. He told me that my work lacked talent and passion, and that I should take some time to consider whether I really saw myself in this profession. I left his office gut-punched and reeling. As I boarded the red line, I told myself that he was wrong, that I would be indispensable, that I would double my efforts until he saw it too. By the end of the ride, I knew that he was right. My boss had done me a great kindness, or maybe just a grown-up thing. He had made me conscious of my discomfort and forced me to deal with it. 3 weeks later, I enrolled in classes to become a teacher. And now here's what all of this has to do with you, the graduating class of 2010. These are good days.